What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about the quality of life in Canada versus the United States. Now, you might be wondering, how does one measure the quality of life? Well, in this video here, they're going to do just that. Not with anecdotal, he said, she said, kind of stories about life in Canada and America. None of that today, although I do enjoy those from time to time. Today, we're sticking to the cold, hard facts, the data, the raw data. And we have 5 categories here that are going to be compared between life in Canada versus life in the United States. Those categories are education, employment and wealth, health, pretty important stuff, right? Happiness, life satisfaction, security and safety, important things that are very important for your overall quality of life where you're living. So, not that this is a competition or anything, but Canada and United States are going to be directly competing against each other in these 5 categories, and in all good fun, of course, just seeing where our two nations kind of rank in these different metrics. I think that should actually be pretty interesting to hear about, like, how these statistically kind of rank with these categories. So, enough of that. Let's take a look.
2 of the closest countries in the world today are the United States of America and their northern neighbour Canada, or, as some of my American friends call it, America's hat. While these countries share a massive 5,000...
America's hat. Okay, off to a good start. America's hat.
Friends call it America's hat. While these countries share a massive 5,500-mile border, there are many distinct differences that affect the livability of these nations.
Right.
This is Alex from Lifelong Learners. I have family in both America and Canada, and today I thought it would be fun to objectively compare America and Canada to see which country is more livable. So looking at education...
More livable. Interesting way to put it, but yeah, which country is more livable? Which one will you survive in? It's interesting because, as I've said before, Americans do tend to more often point towards Canada as somewhere they'd like to go and live perhaps one day, especially when Americans are not particularly enjoying their stay in America. They point to Canada as somewhere that they'd realistically move to, but you don't often hear the reverse. Canadians who are too gung-ho about moving to America. So I am wondering, do the results of this comparison here in this video, is that going to kind of support that thesis, that bias, if you will?
Employment, health, happiness, and security will compare these countries.
Right.
Both America and Canada have strong education systems that are better than global averages.
Right.
The elementary school PISA rankings score America in the top 50% with a rank of 25 out of 70. Canada, however, comes in the top 10 with a rank of 7.
Wow. 25 out of 70 isn't horrible, but I think most Americans, including myself, would, I'm kind of shocked that America, we consider ourselves pretty darn good, in education, the education that we provide, and yet 25th out of 70 countries. That's kind of eye-opening to me. Whereas Canada, not too surprisingly, very well known for ranking highly in education in the world. 7th in elementary school. I like that they've actually broken it down to not just education altogether, but looking at elementary school, that beginning formation of years of learning. Wow, 25th for America, huh? Wonder why that is.
It's important to consider higher education. Canada performs strongly with 20 Canadian colleges in the top 500 in the world. America, however, dominates the top of the list, with 41 colleges in the top 100, compared to Canada with just 3.
This is an interesting one. It's, I would almost rather be ranked just high. I'd rather have less colleges, in the top whatever, and just be ranked higher overall in education, if that makes sense, because it almost seems like America is going to be ranked super highly or have a lot of colleges in the top 100 just because we have a ton of colleges. Endless colleges. So, I mean, they are ranked, like, in the top 100 of colleges, I suppose, in the world. So that's good. We have a lot of colleges that are ranked highly. So that's good. You know, if we're going to have that many and they're ranked highly. But I feel like we have kind of an extra leg up on this one just because we have a ton of colleges. Some of them are bound to be good. Canada having 3 in the top 100, you know. I think compared to our population sizes, this kind of all makes sense.
Let's look at affordability of higher education. The average annual cost of college in the US is 52% of the median annual individual income, more than twice as much as Canada at 22%.
That's an interesting way to measure this. Kind of a confusing way to measure this. I almost wish they had just said the average amount that university costs, the average amount that education costs to attend university in America, rather than this percent of your percent of the average annual income. That's kind of a convoluted way to measure this, but this is some roundabout way of saying that education in America is absurdly expensive, especially compared to Canada. So I kind of knew about this, so this is not all that surprising.
While America has better colleges, the affordability is much lower.
Yeah.
Both of these factors impact on the proportion of young adults completing higher education, with 59% of 25 to 34-year-old Canadians completing tertiary education, compared to 47% in the US.
Huh. That's not a small amount. Over 10% more. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. You know, we have a lot of top 100 colleges, and that's great. But in America, most people are having a really rough time affording or being able to attend the colleges or universities, and our completion rate graduating the college or university is under 50%. So in that sense, it's kind of a huge waste that America has a lot of great colleges and universities, isn't it? That's kind of sad, honestly. Huh. I like how they laid out these stats on education. It's kind of eye-opening to a couple of different interesting things you can take away from it. And as for, I don't know if they're going to decide whether Canada or the United States who won the education category here, but I don't know, elementary school much better in Canada. There's a lot more top colleges in America, but there are some in Canada. The affordability is way better in Canada. The completion rate is better in Canada. Canada would probably win in education, like, not too difficult a decision there.
In terms of the economy, America is by far the largest in the world. Employment levels are high in both America and Canada, with an unemployment rate of 4.4% in America compared to Canada's 6.6%.
Okay.
The average wage in America also outperforms Canada, with a wage of just over $60,000 compared to Canada's $48,000.
Huh, interesting. That's the average wage, $60,000, huh? Well, I imagine just because literally America is one of the top or the top economy on the planet, that this might be the one category, employment and wealth, where we technically can come out ahead, but I don't know. I don't know if they're going to get into this with the stats they present here, but the wealth inequality in America, that really deserves being mentioned because, yeah, the average wage in America might be $60,000, but that's just because 1% of Americans are making $10 million and 99% are making whatever, under $50,000, and then when you average that together, you might come up with $60,000, and then the bottom 20% of Americans are probably earning like $30,000 or less, or $20,000, or living paycheck to paycheck in poverty. So this average wage stuff doesn't really paint the whole picture, I think.
The tax rate varies both between and within Canada and America, with different rates based on income and location. KPMG lists the individual income tax rate in the US at 39.6%, compared to 33% in Canada.
Okay. Well, the only thing I'll say about this is I think Canada, the way Canada spends the taxes and budgets it for the country has to be a lot better. Like, so much of American taxes are going towards our already enormous military budget and not paying for basic, like, helping really important causes like perhaps healthcare in America. Like, in Canada, at least you know your taxes are helping you provide healthcare for yourself. And in America, it's not the case. No one really knows what it's going towards half the time. It's not paying teachers better salaries. It's not fixing the pothole outside on the road that I'm not going to complain about right now. And it's not helping the healthcare either.
Gross Cost of Living Index ranks America as a more expensive country, with a rank of 18 out of 122 countries, compared to Canada at 27.
Cost of living. Canada's 27th cost of living, and America's 18th. I wonder what the highest cost of living country in the world is. I think it's a Scandinavian country. I know like Norway, Denmark, Sweden, Finland are pretty expensive. Anyway, I digress. This is Canada versus America here. I gotta stay on track.
While America has a much stronger economy, better universities, and higher wages, Canada performs better in the health area.
Oh boy.
Adult obesity rates are terrible in both countries, with 28% in Canada and 33.7% in America.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I think America is famous for its adult obesity rates. I didn't know Canada was at 28%, or, you know, this video was probably made a few years ago, so these figures might be a little off now, but I didn't know that about Canada, honestly. But I know America is literally famous for huge portion sizes and an overweight population, but it's kind of strange because it depends on kind of what state you go to. That can really change a lot. Anyway, interesting. I didn't know that.
Maternal mortality, that is, the number of mothers dying per 100,000 live births, is quite low in both countries.
Okay.
With 7 per 100,000 in Canada and 14 per 100,000 in America.
Okay. I would have expected that to be, man, maternal mortality. Man, this got kind of dark real quick, but yeah, it's good to see that it's literally in the single digits, or 14 for America per 100,000. That's what you'd expect, I imagine, in like first world countries like ours. So good.
Infant mortality, the number of children per 1,000 live births who die before reaching the age of 5, is similar in both countries, with 6.5 per 1,000 in America and 4.9 per 1,000 in Canada. However, with hundreds of thousands of births in Canada alone each year, this small difference in the rate accounts for a large difference in the absolute number of deaths. Life expectancy figures shows that the average Canadian lives to 81.7 years, compared to the average American at 79.6 years.
Oh, Canadians are living 2 years longer than Americans. What are you doing with those extra 2 years? I wonder. A little extra maple syrup here and there, some poutine, perhaps, you know, to... Oh, I don't know. This doesn't surprise me at all either, to be honest. As a matter of fact, I'm a little surprised that the life expectancies are this similar. I would have thought America wasn't doing too great, but with even the amount of modern medicine and healthcare that we do have, it is nice that, you know, I would expect most Americans to live to the age of 80 by 2023, that most people are living to 80. So that's good.
But, as they say, a good life is not measured by the number of breaths, but the number of moments that take your breath away. On the World Happiness Index, Americans rank a respectable 21 out of 141 countries. However, Canada creeps into the top 10, with a rank of 9, making Canada one of the happiest places on Earth.
Wow, that doesn't surprise me. That doesn't surprise me at all, because Canada does a great job at taking care of, like, some of the most important things that directly relate to happiness, like being able to get an education, job, healthcare, get a home, have a family, live in a culture and community that is supportive and nice, and that whole mishmash comes together to create happiness. I don't exactly know what they use to measure this happiness index, but I imagine it's factors like that. I'm glad America is at least 21 out of 141 countries. You'd honestly hope to do a bit better than that, if we're being honest, right? Like, as Americans, like, we pride ourselves on being a leader on the global stage and all that. And yet, our happiness, despite being a first world country, access to basically all the resources you could ever need, yet we are still outside the top 20 in happiness. I feel like that says something. So, good for Canada, number 9. I feel like I've seen the happiness data on Canada like more recently, and Canada always seems to be super high every year in happiness, which is just one of the most, maybe the most important metric in this whole video is happiness. So, yeah.
The rate of homelessness is relatively high in both countries, but America, at 0.18% of the population, is clearly better than Canada, at 0.44%.
Really? I didn't know that man. Because in America, it's talked about a lot, homelessness in America, as a real problem. And to see that Canada is over 3 times higher the rate, 0.44, I wonder why that is. I never associated homelessness with an issue in Canada. I guess that's just a byproduct of me not living in Canada or seeing the Canadian news or any of that on a day-to-day basis. So I didn't know that. That surprises me. That's unfortunate.
Suicide rates also show that America is in front of Canada, with 9.9 suicides per 100,000, compared to 10.1 in Canada.
I mean, it's identical about.
However, the death rate by drug overdose shows America loses 195 people per million each year, compared to 101 in Canada.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, drug overdose and drug issues in America is definitely talked about in American news and politics. So I would have expected America to unfortunately be higher in this category. But seems like this is a problem just in any developed nation. Canada still having 101 drug overdoses per 100,000, or per 1 million people, excuse me, that's a little better. And America having twice the amount of overdoses. I guess that makes sense.
Happiness is impacted by safety and security, and here there are some large gaps. Canada performs strongly in safety and security, with a global terrorism index rating of 2.5 compared to 4.9 in America.
Global terrorism index. I just don't know what that even means. I don't even know what this metric is talking about, but apparently Canada wins it.
Homicide rates per 100,000 people are also lower in Canada, with 1.7 per 100,000 compared to 5.4 in America.
Sheesh. Man, that's bad. Not surprising, though. Murder, crime, safety, security is an issue in America. It really depends on where you live. It really depends on where you live. But, man, murder and homicide rates being about 4 times more per 100,000 people in America. That is bad. Wow.
America. The incarceration rate in Canada continues to indicate that Canada is a safer place to live, with only 114 prisoners per 100,000 people in the population, compared to 666 in America.
Oh no, and we're locking up about 6 times as many people, 6 times as many citizens in America too. I mean, in America is famous for its prison system and high number of prisoners in America. I don't know what the rest of the world thinks about that, but I think America has the literal highest number of prisoners of maybe any country on the planet, if I'm not mistaken. 6 times the incarceration rate of Canada. That doesn't surprise me, but it's It's ugly to look at, that figure.
And the Global Peace Index indicates a large gap between Canada and America, with Canada ranked in the top 10 at number 8, and America in the bottom proportion, ranked 141 out of 163 countries.
What? Oh my gosh, what does this mean? Wait, this is... I don't know what the Global Peace Index is measuring, but America is almost dead last. We're 141 out of 163. And Canada's almost first, number 8, top 10. I feel like I have to look this up. This is too much of a disparity to ignore. Global Peace Index. Let me see here. Global Peace Index 2023. What is this? Global Peace Index. Can I get a definition of what this is? What is it? A report produced by the Institute for Economics and Peace, which measures the relative position of nations and regions' peacefulness. Our peacefulness. I suppose based on that, you can kind of say how much America kind of involves itself in global and foreign affairs, war, conflicts, like international conflict, and America is constantly involving itself in conflicts around the world, nonstop. So, is that the explanation right there? Is that why we are literally 141st out of 163 countries? I think that's it. I think that it's literally a measurement of like how peaceful you are as a nation, and how you basically, by being peaceful, you are not getting involved in conflicts around the world. So that's why Canada is number 8. I think that explains it. I think I understand.
So while America has higher wages, better universities, lower unemployment, lower homelessness, and a lower suicide rate, Canada is a happier and safer country, with healthier people and a lower tax rate.
Oh man, there you have it. They did rank every category, and even though there were a few like subcategories where America was quote unquote winning, overall, when you add it all up within each category, Canada dominated this comparison. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like, Canada dominated this.
Which country do you think is more livable? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and give a thumbs up.
Oh, I like how they're trying to be a little impartial there at the end. They did not say... I won't be impartial, I'll say it. Like, Canada clearly won this comparison. They didn't really say, but if you look at the numbers here, with at least with what they compared here today, I'm sure there are a lot of categories. Based on what you're choosing to compare, you could come up with a different conclusion, I guess, if you pick and choose what data to compare. But for this purposes, Canada won this. So Canada is more livable, I guess. You might just have a better time in Canada based off this video. Doesn't surprise me too much. Many Americans agree with that notion. But I don't know. It's always kind of a tricky subject because my experience in America has been largely positive. But on the whole other spectrum of that, there's an enormous amount of people in America who are having a horrible time. So it really does depend on your personal experiences. But I like taking sort of a general overarching look at it, kind of approach by using data and numbers like this today. So I thought this was interesting to do, this exercise. So very good stuff, very fascinating. Anyway, if you thought this was interesting or enjoyable as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada, Canadian culture, stuff about Canada I've never seen or talked about before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.